Hey everybody, welcome back to the second episode of what is now I guess we're calling it the Movie News Podcast, February. Even though we're recording this 2 weeks into March, the Oscars came up, so we're kind of trying to wait for that to happen and then kind of digest it. So this one's a little bit later, but we're still going to have a March episode at the end of March. But right now, February episode's a little bit late. But I'm your host Sawyer, and I'm from Film Haven Reviews. As you, if you're checking in on my side, then that's what you're used to hearing me from. And then we have,
I'm Matt Scott, and I'm from the Movie Podium, and you can check us out at the Movie Podium on YouTube or Instagram. We are a weekly podcast where we watch a movie and we talk about it. It's kind of like a book club,
but for movies,
but
and
for movies.
yeah, if you listen to the last episode of Movie News, then you know that joke already. But yeah, today we're gonna try to keep it lower than a minute or an hour, 51 minutes, just because that is a lot to handle and a lot to listen to. So we're gonna be
Yep.
going a little easier, like a little breezier, going faster a little bit this time. And since we covered a lot of this ground on the Oscars, it should be more of a recap than anything. Recap and then just kind of giving our thoughts. So not too much preamble here. We're just going to get right into it. So the Oscars happened last week.
That was fun.
Yeah. I mean, what were your overall thoughts? I mean, just
I actually enjoyed it for the most part. It
Yeah.
wasn't as preachy as
Yeah.
it has been. I kind of expected it to be, and
Yeah.
really wasn't that bad. Like Adrian Brody's speech was kind of, but like not over the top. And
Actually, it broke a record.
Yeah.
It's the
Did it
longest
really?
speech,
The
Guinness
longest
World
one?
Record by 1 second. Actually, there was a speech from 1947
kidding.
that was 5 minutes and 30 seconds long, and this one was 5 minutes and 31 seconds.
No
So
way.
this wasn't too
Wow.
preachy. It was just like rambly.
Yeah. So that was fine. I kind of thought it was funny that, I mean, it kind of shows you what a type A actor is when
Yeah.
he's like, no, don't kick me off. Like,
Yeah.
I can handle the time. It's like,
Yeah.
dang, okay. He's like, nobody else tells them to do
Right.
that.
I've never heard that, honestly. I've never heard them actually
No,
say like, no, turn the music off, please.
I couldn't believe that. That was
I've done
crazy.
this before. Yeah, I think I liked what he was saying at the beginning too, because obviously I followed his career, and I was a big Adrian Brody
Same.
fan when I was younger, and so I was
Yep.
kind of like, I see that trajectory that he's talking about, and I think it was important for a lot of aspiring actors and other actors that have had some success to say, like, it's not always going to be this, the heights are
Sure.
heights, and a lot of times those heights are followed by valleys, and that's just how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of self-reflection there, but overall, I thought it was good, and I didn't have too many qualms, honestly.
Yeah.
I kind of expect by the time that they came out, the results weren't too shocking. Maybe the
Yeah.
best picture was.
Yeah.
But
I
other
actually
than
had that
I
down.
don't know. Did
I had
you?
that. Yeah. I mean, because it was just seeming that way. The momentum, and I guess that was a little
Oh, yeah,
different
by
for me.
the end, sure.
Mhm. And just in general with the awards that have been coming out beforehand this year, more than usual, I actually paid attention to the award ceremonies that were kind of running up to the Oscars. And so when you can
Yeah.
actually look and see, like, it's like baseball, you're like, the statistics are here,
Yep.
when
Yep.
Kieran Culkin and Zoe Saldana have won Best
Not
Supporting Actor
shocking at all.
for both,
Everywhere.
and each one, you
Yep.
kind of can say with almost 100% certainty that they're going to get it. It would be a huge upset
Yeah.
otherwise.
I would agree. I saw that coming. Now, I'm sure you were shocked about the cinematography. Maybe we'll get into that a little more.
Okay. We got to stop. We got because
let's just get into it.
Let's get into it, because I can talk about that right now without getting really upset.
Yep.
So let's see here. Okay, so we got a little slide here for our Oscar winners. I'm gonna go by the movie with the basically from most wins to least, and then just that way we don't have to go through every category. I feel like that was really laborious last time. So this time we might be a little faster this way. So the big winner of the night is definitely Anora, 100%.
Yeah.
And
that was awesome. I mean, kind of surprising. Do you know how much it cost to make this movie? Did you look that up?
I don't know the budget exactly, but I know it was on a shoestring. It definitely, I
Yeah.
mean, Sean
Okay, I
Baker
wasn't
in
sure.
general is known for making these kind of, I mean, obviously they're on a bit of a budget here because he is literally the editor, the screenwriter, and the director. I mean,
Yeah, he's everything.
he's doing a lot of the grunt work that you would normally sometimes hire an entire team for.
Right.
So I mean, you look at a Marvel movie and look how many writers. Actually, Captain America had like 20 or more than that. It had
Oh
like
yeah,
a ridiculous amount
definitely.
of writers, and everyone thought the writing in that movie was terrible. So
Right.
sometimes, obviously, that shows that quantity is not quality, but
Agreed.
definitely he's known as someone who is like basically I mean, it did have funding, but it was made, I
Yeah,
think it was like,
I just looked it up.
yeah,
6 million to
6
make the
million,
movie.
which is nothing. I mean,
That's
yeah,
nothing.
for a movie to win these kind of accolades, it is nothing. A lot of it was blood, sweat, and tears, and who you know. I think that at this point, Sean Baker has probably made a lot of contacts and networking. So you pull favors, and you basically have to pull the influence of people who are also doing this for passion.
Mhm,
Famously, just recently, I heard that Bradley Corbet, the director of The Brutalist, he made
mhm.
zero money on the Brutalist. Like, he actually
Wow.
didn't make any money off of it. He said he got his first paycheck in like 6 years by doing a couple of ads for some company in Europe. Like, it was like
Wow.
ads. Like, he had to
That's
basically do,
crazy.
yeah, day work in order to get money when he's directing The Brutalist, which is,
That's
I mean,
insane.
The Brutalist, when you like, out of all the movies that were up this year, is the most like Oscar like movie like
Oh, 100%.
Scorsese-esque like kind
Yeah,
of
of
film,
course.
which is really good.
Agreed.
I mean, I'm glad that we still have movies like that are being made, but the fact that it
Mhm.
was made and didn't make money, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure
that's
it made money
crazy.
overall, but when you cut everything down and all the slices and everything, that's part of what Sean Baker was trying to talk about when his
Yeah,
um
I wanted to
speech.
talk about that.
Yeah,
I thought I really liked the speech because I mean, you and I love going to the movies, and
right.
it's such a fun thing, and it does make a movie better. Like, the experience is
Yes.
why I enjoy movies so much, right? Whether it's
100%.
a really good movie, bad movie, whatever, I just love going to the theaters. So his speech was I think it hit home because of how much streaming is kinda killing it,
Yeah.
like video killed the radio star.
Yes.
Feels a lot like that now
Yeah.
with streaming, but it's kind of funny because he's talking about how, they wanna have people or movies going back to the theaters and these big blockbuster, but the Oscars are traditionally against the big blockbusters.
Right.
And, like, those are the ones that make money and they go to theaters and they
Yeah.
crush it, like the Marvels, and
Right.
personally, I like both sides. Like,
Oh,
I
same.
love Marvel movies, but I also love I love
Right.
all kinds of movies, and I
I
think
just
that's
like
what's
any
fun
movie
about
is
the
good.
theaters. Yeah, exactly, but it's kind of funny because, like, the Oscars are traditionally, they don't reward the big blockbuster, the popcorn movie, and it's kind of funny because those are the ones that are really into going to the or being released in the theaters.
Right. I just watched this clip on Instagram actually of Steven Spielberg back in the 70s explaining the concept of commercial backlash, where it's exactly what
Mhm,
you're talking about, where he's like, people want
mhm.
you to be a winner, but they don't want you to be a winner. If you make too much
Yeah,
money, then the Oscars are not going to love you anymore. Because the guy that was
right.
with him that was talking about how Godfather wins Best Picture and Coppola is not even nominated for director. And it's like, how does that work?
Yeah,
And I
that's
know
crazy.
I learned something the other day at the Oscars that Scorsese has only won once for
Yeah,
director.
even though he's been nominated so many times,
I
they
don't
just
know
kinda
how it
throw his
skipped.
name in
Yeah,
there.
I don't know how that skipped me, but I'm just like, that's insane. But it's just one of those
What
things.
was the one?
The
Goodfellas?
Departed. I think it was The Departed.
Makes
I believe.
sense
Yeah.
because that also won Best Picture.
But everything
Totally
else,
makes
I
sense.
mean, he's been up for. I know you would think Goodfellas because I mean, arguably that is his best movie. But anyway, moving on. Honora is was a good movie. I really liked it. I
Yeah,
didn't love it actually.
I
Like,
didn't
okay,
love it.
here's the thing
Yeah.
about Honora with me was that I didn't enjoy the experience of watching it, but I appreciated it, if that makes sense.
Mm.
It was just a big stress
Yeah.
ball. It's like I don't like watching uncut gems, but I do
Yeah, I know, that's
appreciate uncut
sure.
gems as a movie. I
Yeah.
think it was a great film. but I don't ever want to see it again. And I know Eric will, from your podcast, will appreciate that.
Yeah,
But
100%, and I felt the same way, and, I didn't necessarily feel stressed, but I just thought it was I don't even know how to explain it, like, I didn't dislike I appreciate it too, like,
yeah,
I thought it was good, but it didn't blow me out, I didn't think it was, like, up to the standards of, like, a Saving Private Ryan or a
right. Oh my God.
Goodfellas or
Yeah,
Departed, any of those Best Picture. I felt like it was kind of a lower tiered Best Picture winner, and I honestly, from these movies, I think that adds up and makes sense, but I
yeah,
wasn't super impressed with it from a
yeah.
Best Picture
I
standpoint.
think that it wasn't so much like the stress I was feeling, it was just the cacophony of noises, a lot of screaming, especially in the middle
Oh, yeah.
section. There was just so much
The middle
screaming, everyone
section was
yelling.
the hardest part.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone's yelling and everything's going on. But I think that the last scene, it's like one of those movies where the last scene justifies the entire journey.
Yep.
And I
Agreed.
had to appreciate that. Like I walked out of the movie theater and was like, huh, wow,
Yep.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I really appreciate that movie, even though while I was watching it, I was like, oh my God, this is going on for a long time.
No, I agree, and it's kinda it yeah, that actually sparked something for me. I think it kinda reminded me of oh, man, um, 60s movie
Mhm.
with Dustin Hoffman, The
The
Graduate.
Graduate. Yeah.
The last scene in The Graduate, when they finally they finally escape,
Hmm.
she runs away with him, and they get on the bus, and they look at each other, or
Right.
they look around, and they're like, "What the hell did we just do?"
Yes.
That, like, moment of not the moment for them, but the moment for the audience, it
Audience,
had that
yes.
very similar feeling.
Well, it's
Like,
like this whole movie has
"Whoa."
been moving in one direction, and then at the
Exactly.
last moment, it either clarifies everything, like in Anora, and
Yeah.
in The Graduate, it kind of
It's
like
the complete opposite.
right. Or it
Yeah.
clarifies, but just in a different way. I
Yeah.
completely agree. I think that's a really good point. But I think, this is might be groundbreaking. I think it is a record for Sean Baker to have 4 Oscars personally for one film.
That's
I think that's
crazy.
the first
That's a
time
lot. I
ever,
didn't know
so
that. Yeah.
it's been a long time
Okay.
coming, just because all his movies are about sex workers, and they're all this kind of like kind of rogue style, from Tangerine to Florida Project to
Yeah,
Red
Florida
Rocket,
Project.
and
Yeah.
Florida Project was incredible. That's the only
Wasn't
other
that
one I've
shot on an
seen.
iPhone?
That wouldn't surprise me.
I'm
It
pretty
is
sure that
very.
was shot on an iPhone.
I no, I
Yeah.
really wouldn't be surprised by that. I don't know that for sure, but I bet that if you told me that, I'd be like, yeah, for sure. I mean, amazing performances. One of William Dafoe's best roles,
Oh,
but
definitely.
great movie. And I think that overall, I think this is more of a vindication than anything else.
Yeah.
I feel like they're vindicating the small time independent filmmaker,
Yep.
which I
Agreed.
could see that being annoying, but I do think that there is at least quality here.
Yeah, I
So
do agree. I think
whereas Emilia
you're spot
Perez, as
on.
we'll get into, is like the opposite of that, where it's just like they didn't do the research and they just said, "This movie has checks all these boxes, so let's just give it all the noms."
100%.
Where at least Enora is actually a movie with craft. The next
Agreed.
movie, The Brutalist. This one won 3. Actor Adrian Brody, of course. Original score and cinematography, which
Is
okay
LOL his first name?
it's LOL. It's lol
Okay, I
probably.
will laugh out loud
The
for that.
fact the fact that it's all uppercase on the typing makes it even worse. But
Oh,
yeah.
I know.
But anyway, yeah. So I will say here on the cinematography, as we'll get into later, Nosferatu did not win
Yeah.
cinematography like it should have. But if there was going to be one it was going to lose to, I'm glad it's The Brutalist. I do
Okay.
think that movie did in another year where Nosferatu wasn't in. I would say
Mhm.
easy that was my number one. The cinematography was really good in that movie. It's one of the best aspects, just because of the way that it blended those kind of more
Mhm.
traditional cinematography that you would see from like a Roger Deakins or like Scorsese's guys.
Yeah.
It blended that kind of style with some avant-garde stuff. They had some
Mhm.
weird cuts that like cut off to more impressionistic things. There was lots of there was like a motif of travel. So there was like a scene with the train moving and you're following the rails. There's a scene where you're with the street following the road, and there's a couple more ships following the water. I really liked those kind of like more avant-garde, impressionistic
Yeah.
kind of motifs that were not so grounded as some of the other films from like major directors of this ilk. So I'm
Sure.
mad. I'm mad, but I'm not. I could be more mad. Like if,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I my only thing with this is I actually would have given it to either I also thought Dune 2 was
oh
probably
yeah,
better from a cinematography standpoint
yeah. Dune 2 had really
and
good
or
stuff.
Nosferatu.
Yeah,
The one thing I'll say about The Brutalist being how long? 3 hours and 44 minutes, something like
I
that?
don't even remember. I
I
just
think
sat
it
for
was
the ride.
it's like I feel like when you have a movie that long, cinematography is almost a guaranteed because there's so
Have
much you
much
can
more
put
to
on
do.
screen.
Yeah,
So if one of the one or like 3 minutes of the 3 hours, gets into your brain and you're like, "Whoa,
right.
that was a really cool scene."
Hmm.
It's like you have so much more trial and error to give something that, adds up from a cinema standpoint, and
Yeah,
I feel like it's kind of not fair when you go
yeah,
against a movie like Nosferatu
right,
or one that's, not just shorter, but in a time period piece. I feel like
right.
these are all kinda competing against each other, so I was kinda surprised by it.
It's hard. It's a hard one to do. Is I and like you said, this movie did. I mean, these movies this year, there were a lot of good contenders. Dune is a good example
Yeah,
of one that could
I
get it. So
agree.
it was a hard one to pick, but I definitely, if you look at all into what they did in Nosferatu, the way that they used the single camera, like for example, the cinematographer and Eggers himself does not like to cut. And
Mhm.
so a lot of his and this is a cool thing with cinematography that's not even part of like cutting or anything like that. It's about moving, blocking the actors. So certain
Sure.
scenes will have actors moving around on this one shot, or where the camera
Yep.
can pan and then the characters follow the camera and then set up. And that is like, oh, it's really effective. It's really efficient. And it's
Yep.
also interesting. And it doesn't, it makes it to where the viewer doesn't break like consciousness. You can kind of
Yeah,
flow with the
agreed.
scene. Just
I
different
much
things like
prefer
that.
that.
Yeah. And then there's shots where they're literally, I saw some the other day where they're taking the wall out, like they have a wall. They need to
Mhm.
pan the shot over to see another angle of the character. Instead of cutting out, they just cut the wall out and have it on a track. So the wall moves
Wow.
back so they can swing over and get a better
Yeah,
shot,
that's
more room for the
awesome.
shot. It's like, oh
That's
man,
awesome.
like come on. And
That's yeah.
just for the viewer too, like there's so many shots where you're watching the camera feels like a character, where the force perspective, like, the
Mhm.
the camera moves and then the character moves into the camera's perspective in the same
Yep.
scene. And it's like, I remember
It's like you're
watching,
there.
yes, as I'm watching it, I'm like, this camera feels so alive, this feels so
Yeah,
amazing. And I
totally.
just,
Especially in the conversations
mhm,
where when they're discussing what to do about the situation, and it does feel like you're one of the people, one of the doctors or whoever they were
yeah,
talking to. It felt like you were one of those people
you
for
were having
sure
a
when they were
conversation
panning
with them.
around. Yeah, no, I
100%.
totally agree.
Yeah,
And Dune, I mean, it felt like I was watching Star Wars 2.0 in
yeah,
some cases. I
for
I
sure.
think this was one of the harder categories, while I thought, again, I think Best Picture was kind of a weaker category
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. Adrian Brody definitely deserved actor in my opinion. I think that Timmy,
Yeah,
I actually never ended up seeing Complete Unknown, so
me
I can't
neither.
say, but from everything I've
Me
heard, I mean,
neither.
5 years of prep and he got the character down, pat. So I mean, obviously I think if he would have gotten it, no one would have been mad. And he got it at the SAG. So it's obviously
Yeah.
he had a chance. But this is the opposite of what happened to Adrian Brody when he first got his Oscar.
Mhm.
Adrian Brody was the Daniel Day-Lewis this time, and Daniel Day-Lewis got it. So the
Yeah.
score was good. I think Bruto's had a really good score, so that didn't really bother me too much.
No, I don't think that, and because like, the only thing that might have compared to it or competed would have been Wicked, but I
Right.
think those I always feel like is a cop out because,
Hmm.
I mean,
It's a
it's not an
musical.
original score, it's a
Right.
musical
Right.
it's the score based on a musical, like, that we already know the songs to.
Yeah,
Like Defying Gravity has been in my head for 20 years. So like
exactly. Exactly.
I don't think that's fair to compete. So yeah, I was totally fine with the score.
Think we can agree with that. Next one, Amelia Perez. Let's get into it. So, the best supporting actress makes sense. She's won everything else.
Fine.
She did a great
Yep.
job, but like, I still
Mhm.
don't think she necessarily needed it. Honestly, I think,
Sure.
what's her name? Oh my god, the wife in The Brutalist, Felicity Jones. I think she slayed that role. I think that the second half was completely embodied by her character. She had such a great entrance in that movie too. Like you have the intermission, it comes up, and you get the timer. There's like a 20-minute timer for you to go to the bathroom, and you come back, and it just starts with
Yeah.
her coming into the movie, and it's like she just changes the dynamics immediately. I think she played an incredible role. I think that they did a great job at explaining that, saying that on the Oscars, where they said that she embodied strength and weakness in equal measure. Like I thought that was a
Yeah.
really good. I think she should have probably won, but there was also some
Did
others like Ariana Grande that I thought should have gotten it
oh,
too.
that one has surprised me. And back to Felicity Jones. Did
Yeah,
she win for in The Theory of Everything? Did she win
I
anything
forgot
for
she was in
that?
that. I was like not very present during that
Okay.
time, but I do remember her. I remember Eddie Redmayne, like he got it. I think right.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did get it. Okay, so she did not, but
right. Was
she
she
was up
nominated?
for she was
Okay.
nominated for Best Act, and she was great in that.
Yeah, I
I
haven't
don't
really
remember
seen
who
her in
won
too
that year,
much,
but
honestly. I remember her in what, Rogue One?
Star Wars.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she was
Star Wars.
great in Rogue One, but
Yeah,
I haven't really seen her
Jin
in
or
that much.
so.
Yeah, great character. But in this movie, she really showed me that she's got the chops, and I totally forgot she was in Theory of Everything, so that makes sense. She's obviously showing that
She's
she
great
can
in that.
come up to this point multiple
Yep.
times. And I think that if I was to pick, I think her Ariana Grande would have been a better pick. But Zoe Saldana, I mean, she just,
Like you said, it's predictable.
yeah, she was getting it for
And
everything else.
best song or original
Oh yeah,
song,
yeah,
to be honest, this is kinda cringy. I don't even remember it,
yeah.
but
I
I
remember
like
that's actually
that's
part of my
how
favorite song on the movie,
Oh,
to be honest.
really?
It's kinda
That's
silly.
funny.
I kinda like I'm almost like it for like a, ironic reason, but it is
Yeah, of
a little
course.
catchy. I think it's kinda catchy and, it's kinda funny. It's a little bit of an earworm. It's not there's a lot of bad songs on that movie. But that was
Yeah.
if there was gonna be one to win, I think that would probably be the one to win. But I mean, I didn't really know if I really had any kind of one I was rooting for. So,
No, I agree. No, totally agree.
which is interesting considering how many musicals are up. But yeah, Amelia Perez winning
Yeah.
two. We should talk just for a second. Amelia Perez won two out of 13 noms. Not a great showing. Uh,
No, that's, pretty weak from a percentage standpoint, let's be honest.
and also the acceptance speech by Camille, Camille Gilliard or Agard or whatever. That was
Yeah.
hilarious. Probably the funniest moment of the night where she just starts
Oh,
singing
definitely.
Amelia, and she
It
kept
was
going too.
oh, that was interesting.
They had to basically do the sheep, the shepherd's cane to get
Yeah,
her
of
off of
course.
the stage.
Yeah, I think I'm ready to forget about this year for, some reasons, and I think Amelia Perez is one of those.
Yeah, yeah. This was a wacky year for the Oscars, and I think this is one of the main reasons. I mean, just the last time we talked was so long ago about this. Just the idea, because I've like learned so much more about it since I watched it again, actually, with some friends.
Oh, wow.
And,
Yeah.
the second time around is much worse because I know so much now. Like, I said
Oh,
last time on
man.
the episode that I was, like, leaving some space from some cultural misunderstanding. Little
Sure.
did I know that it was a French production, and they
Oh, no way.
literally
I didn't know that.
no research was done on Mexican, like Mexico City Mexicans or that kind of culture or anything. And so not
Oh,
only
boy.
was the movie like supposed to trying to be representing of like minorities and different types of
Yeah.
ways of life, but it like flagrantly misrepresented
Oh,
the people that
jeez.
it was trying to kind of highlight and with complete disregard. And then on top of that, Carla Gascon is out here making tweets about how, basically xenophobic tweets.
Oh.
So it's
Yeah,
just
yeah, I did see all that.
the irony of the first trans woman to ever be nominated for an Oscars being completely canceled by
I know,
everybody.
isn't that
Well, the far
bizarre?
left, the far right, every single community
That's so
got
weird.
together for once in our lives just so they could
Right.
hate on this one person. So the
Yeah.
irony is incredible, and I think this will
Yeah.
go down in a good way. I think this will be a thing that the Academy
A
learns.
lesson learned.
Yes.
Agreed. A lesson learned that just because you check all the boxes, it's like when you're looking for a new house
Yeah.
and it looks so perfect and you check all the boxes, but then you actually live in it for 6 months and you're like,
Right.
"Oh, no, the AC went out," and all the things
Right.
that you kinda didn't pay it like, the actual feelings of the house, the bones in it just
Yes.
aren't there, but you don't see that, and so, like, it's very similar with this movie where it's like, it checks all those boxes. "Oh, we have the politically correct stuff here. We have it's a musical.
Right.
Oh, and it's a foreign language." Like,
Right.
everything that you wanted to check, and then it was like, "Wait, but there's no substance.
Yeah.
It's not real here." It just
Watching it again is probably the most ridiculous movie I've ever seen. I mean, every 20 minutes it completely
more
changes
than the
too.
stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, more than the stuff. And
Wow.
anyway, so Wicked also gets 2. Um Costume
Yeah,
design and
fine.
production design. Now here's the thing. Production design, I
Okay,
was ready to give up. I was ready to
sure.
give that up for
Oh,
Nosferatu.
yeah,
Even though
yeah,
Nosferatu definitely had good production design, when you look at Wicked and you see the stuff that they did, you gotta give it to them. I mean, the
yeah, when
painting
we
of
talked
all
about that.
the poppies and stuff, they
Yeah,
or not painting, the planting of all the poppies and just that whole harbor at the university
yeah,
completely constructed. I mean, the library scene for that song where there's the twisting kind of
yeah.
tumblers and stuff, forget about it. I mean, there's just no
Yeah,
way.
we and I think we kind of when I think we talked ourselves into that if I
Yeah.
don't if I
I
recall,
think
like,
you had kind of mentioned that, and I still hadn't seen it, so I was kinda like, "Mm," but
I
once
was
I
like,
saw it,
"Oh,
I
that
was
makes"
like,
yeah,
"Definitely."
makes sense.
Yeah, but the costume design,
Costume, okay, yeah,
I'm
let's
upset.
hear it because
I'm upset
yeah.
because when you look at the detail, even just, like, simply just the detail of Count Orlok himself on Nosferatu is
Oh, yeah.
ridiculous how accurate they were trying to be, all details they were showing, and then you look at,
Yep,
like, some of Lily Rose Depp's outfits, the classic one with the big bonnet that's huge, looks like a halo. I mean, all those.
yep,
That is just every single detail, even going down to, like, the Romani camp that they go to, like, everything is so historically accurate. They're speaking in Romani, the language,
yeah.
and I know that's not costume, but when you add those authentic costumes on top of it, it's just
Authenticity.
the immersion factor is just out the roof, and it's
Yeah,
all because I mean, the whole thing that made this movie different in some ways than the other Nosferatu's and even Dracula's is that he's supposed to be Transylvanian, and so they got him looking. His costume actually
mhm,
looks authentically like a Cossack or like these Eastern European, accurate for the time of the 15 16 centuries, and then of course the movie takes place in the 1800s, but it's still like he's supposed to be ancient at that point or old at that point, so he's
right,
wearing this old garb from like the
and it felt
1600s.
like it.
Yes, you can
Absolutely felt
tell.
like it. Yep,
So yes, Wicked had good costumes. There was lots of it. There was a little bit of now that I was looking at it later, the student costumes and stuff was
mhm,
very it was giving me like fashion day. Like I'm not up on like high fashion, but the skirts and stuff and the kilts that they were
sure,
wearing and the glasses
yeah.
and it
It felt
felt
like
very
Harry Potter or something,
Mhm.
2 point again, maybe upgraded because of the fashion today,
Right.
but it did feel like Harry Potter. Now, I wonder, did they ever win costume design, Harry Potter? Because that would
Oh,
make
that's a good
sense.
question. That would make
Yeah, I
sense.
don't know.
There was the scene, when they finally get to Oz and they have the big number. There's tons of costumes in that one scene, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's good, that's
From
good."
sure, yeah, it's kind of the more is better, kinda like the
Mhm.
cinematography example I was giving. There were a ton
Yes.
more costume variety,
Right.
but again, was it authentic?
Mm.
Not as much, right?
Well, it's a fantasy
I feel
world,
like
but
that's probably
still,
why.
it's just I just when you look at how much how heightened Nosferatu is as a film, just like in general, from on all levels, from acting to production design. I mean, Lily Rose Depp didn't even get nominated. You know, there's just so many different things. Like, it is a horror movie, yes. It got nominated for 3 Oscars, and it won 0, as we'll get into later. Okay, Dune Part 2 gets 2, and these are the 2 that I would give.
Oh, definitely. Oh, real quick. So Harry Potter
Oh, yeah.
was nominated for 12 Academy Awards, but won none.
Oh.
However, Fantastic Beasts won 1 Oscar, and it was Best Costume Design.
No way. Of course.
Boom. It just felt like it. It's like, as you're talking about the students, I'm like, I'll bet
Yeah.
that's very similar. So
They probably
when
got
I'm
costume every year, like, nominated, and then just
yeah,
never
I
got it.
bet. So what
Yeah.
I'm gathering is that the Oscars have their types,
Yes.
right? Which we all know that's true.
It definitely is true. And then when they try to break type, they don't know how to do it, Emilia Perez.
Yeah,
Dune
100%.
2 gets 2
Yeah,
wins, visual and
visual
sound.
effects.
That was an
Yeah,
easy one. Sound was
hands
also
down.
easy. The sound
Yeah,
in
I
that
do
movie is
agree.
incredible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All of the explosion,
Mhm.
the impact scenes, uh, yeah, visual effects. I mean, there's so many. What did they say? The joke about the guy, how he made, what was it about riding a sandworm or something
Oh,
in his
yeah.
speech?
Yeah. I
It's
forgot
awesome.
about that, yes.
It's like,
And
yeah, if you can make it look like that, yeah, you
yeah.
deserve to win visual effects.
There's a lot. I mean, even just with the production design, I think it probably should have maybe even had more of a contender there in production design, just
I
because
think
they were
so.
doing so much stuff on site and like out in the desert and
Yep.
all that kind of things. But I think that Dune 2 should be pretty happy with these 2, especially since
Sure.
they were very well earned and they weren't nominated for that many.
Yeah.
So I think that I don't have the statistics, but I think their win rate was better than a lot of others if they were nominated for.
Oh,
Think they were
I
nominated
would
for
think
3 or
so.
4 and they won 2, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you're completely correct that when Doom Messiah comes out, that there's gonna be, like,
I think it's gonna be the
they're gonna sweep.
Re Return of the King all
Exactly.
over
It's gonna
again.
be
I
Return of the
got a
King all
feeling.
back again. So, wha
When does that come out real quick?
Doom Messiah, maybe you could look it up
You know?
while
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
seeing
look
this,
it
'cause
up.
I don't have that ready. I mean, they're starting to I know they streamlined it recently because, Denis Villeneuve or whatever was saying that,
Yeah.
uh, he recently was reading something had inspired him, and he basically was like, "Okay, I need to put other projects on hold, and we need to just go right into Doom Messiah." So I know he's
Awesome.
focusing on it completely.
Good to hear that. So, December 16th, 2026.
Yeah, that's actually not too far away, honestly,
No, not
for
for
how big of
that.
a movie it is, yeah. So Real Pain gets 1, and I'm okay with this. Definitely Kieran Culkin. I did watch this one, and it was really good. I honestly
Yep.
think it should have replaced The Substance or something for Best Picture as far as a
I
nominee.
agree. Absolutely.
Um,
I loved it. I actually really, really liked it. This might have been my favorite. Like,
this is probably
I
my
don't know,
second
not
favorite, I think, of the year, but
yeah,
still.
it's top 3. It's on my podium for sure.
I mean, Nosferatu notwithstanding, because I know that wasn't even remotely up for Best Picture, even though it should have been. I think that Sing Sing should have been up for Best Picture. I actually watching that.
Interesting.
I highly recommend it if you didn't see it because it's an
I haven't seen it. No.
extremely good movie. Extremely good movie. I really think that movie got a little bit snubbed. Obviously, Domingo Coleman got a nom for Sing
Nom,
Sing.
yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't. The movie itself deserved a lot more. It was a very good film. It's based on a true story, and
Mm.
it's a movie
No, I
about
didn't get
a
to see
theater
it.
troupe in Sing Sing, the jail and the prison,
Mm.
and all the characters, which you don't even realize. You kind of start realizing it's real as you're watching it, but at the end they hit you with the bomb, which is that all the people besides Coleman, basically Domingo,
Are real.
were playing themselves. They were playing
Wow.
their real characters, and did such a good job. And the
Crazy.
the supporting actor in that movie should have 100% been up for a nom, and he did better
Huh.
than Coleman, in my opinion. Honestly, Divine Eye is
Wow.
his name, and he was
Huh.
incredible, incredible. So I just think A Real Pain and Sing Sing, I think, were 2 that should have been on the Best Picture, and we could have taken Amelia Perez and The Substance off, in my
Yeah, I'd
opinion.
be fine with that. Yeah, I'd be fine with that. And going back to Kieran
Yeah.
Culkin, I do think he did a great job. Now he plays the exact same character as he does in everything else.
Right. I haven't seen, what's the show? that says.
that I
I know
watched.
Succession.
Succession. Yeah, I
Yeah,
watched the entire thing, and he's probably my second favorite character
right.
in that. But he plays the same character. Like that's him.
Yeah. It's
So
interesting though
it's
that he's
expected.
best supporting actor because he's kind of the focal point of the movie. I'd almost put him in the best actor
That's a
category.
really good point. He is. I mean, it's his story. Even though I feel like, well, who's the first person you see in that? It's been a while.
It's
I think
actually him. He's in the airport,
it is him.
and
Oh,
then
you're
Jesse
right.
Eisenberg
He's
is
getting
coming to the
ready.
airport. Yeah.
That's right.
So I'm like,
Yeah,
that's a
you're
little
right.
weird on that one. They're a buddy. He's probably second build. That might be part of it.
Mm,
But because Jesse Eisenberg like
interesting.
wrote and directed it and everything.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I think that
But
should have
you're
maybe gotten
right.
screenplay, honestly, like a
Oh,
best
definitely.
original
I'm shocked it
screenplay.
wasn't.
Yeah, I think that was a kind of a snub on this movie, but I'm glad to see that
Agreed.
Kieran won so that he could say on stage, "Hey, Jesse Eisenberg is a genius and he deserves more," basically. And what an Oscar
Agreed.
speech he gave.
Oh my
Where he's
god,
talking
yeah.
about how he's gonna have another baby. Every
So
she,
good.
his wife is like, "If you win an Oscar, we'll have another baby."
It's so good.
Well, he won one. The Substance gets one win. Hair and makeup. This is, I mean,
I
we don't
could
even.
definitely see that.
Yeah, we don't even really have to talk about this. Well, I kind of called this.
No
I
br
thought that
Yeah, no-brainer.
the only other one that should get it was Nosferatu, and once again, it's just these
I
movies
know,
that
I
just
will say Cal Orlok was
incredible.
hideous.
He was
You
hideous,
know
and
what I
they worked
mean?
so hard on making him that way. In any other
Yeah,
year, I think it would have definitely probably got,
yeah,
especially because the hair as well,
I
because it's not
agree.
just makeup, it's also hair,
Mhm,
and the hair
mhm.
of all the characters, male and female, was very well done. So, it's annoying, but it makes sense. I'm not too mad about it.
Yep.
So Flow, this one's kind of interesting. That was the best
Ah,
animated feature. I didn't see it,
so I didn't see it either, and
but
I'm mad that I
you're
didn't
mad
see it.
about the wild robot.
I am. Well, to be honest, I left Flow off my radar, and I
Mhm.
assumed it was between Inside Out and The Wild Robot,
Mm,
and so I kind of just didn't pay attention to Flow.
yeah,
So I'm kinda mad I didn't get to see it, so I
yeah,
can't say that I didn't want it to win because I don't know,
right.
but The Wild Robot blew me away. My
Uh,
expectations were, mediocre. I didn't know what it was gonna be, but I knew it was up for Best Picture or Best Animated Film, and so I watched with my kids, and I was like, "Whoa, this movie has depth."
I heard that it makes people cry, and it's.
Have you seen it yet?
I have not seen it. I haven't seen
Oh,
it.
man, you
Yeah,
have
I
to
know.
so Inside Out is, I mean, it's the second one, and it just kind of takes the first one and has the same
Mhm.
idea, and there is depth to it, and it makes you feel everything you wanna feel, and it has a depth, but it's kind of spelled out for you, right?
Right.
Like, you know that it's about feelings. Straight up,
Yeah,
that's what it's about, and
you
you
know where
know
you're
that.
coming
So
in. Yeah.
right. This is like Shrek says, it's like an onion where you see and it's about this.
Layers.
Oh, wait a minute, it's actually about this, and it keeps
Mhm.
getting better and better because it's like
Right.
this is so much more than just a robot that gets placed in a random area,
Yeah.
and so, like, I just thought it was so smart, so well done. I found out that it was a book and that
Oh,
there's
okay.
3 books,
Oh, wow.
actually, and the way it ends, you're like, "Oh, yeah, for sure gonna be
Uh,
more than 1."
they're gonna make a Wild Robot 2 and 3, yeah.
And I'm
Well,
fine because I
it was a
it's
good
a
movie.
cool story. Yeah,
And
I'm good with
obviously
it.
with the book series, they have more story to tell. They're not just making stuff up.
Oh, I can s and there's gotta be more story to tell,
Yeah,
and that's what's cool is that it is bigger picture,
right.
and they only scratched the surface in the first one, so
Yeah.
that's one of the movies I would say to go watch next.
Yeah, it's on my list. I definitely want to. The thing about Flow, and I knew this one was gonna win, just because of the story, because it's,
Mm,
from these guys from Estonia, and they basically made the entire movie, with no money because it was all
mm.
on Blender. They did it all on Blender, which, is like
Really? I didn't even
yes.
pay attention,
Yeah,
wow.
so the whole movie was made on Blender, and that, for those of you who don't know, is like this like open source program that allows you to make 3D models of things. And a lot of
Mhm.
people use Blender for small time indie games and stuff like that, or cutscenes for games, so that they can kind of basically you can make your thing look better than without having to go and pay for some expensive equipment. It is a open
Yeah.
source. It's completely free. And it's something that, because of that, it takes a long time to do anything. Kind of like, it honestly reminds me of like doing a stop motion just on
Oh
a
yeah. Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
you're doing a stop motion rendering on computer, which is equally as time consuming. And so I think that was one of the reasons why it won, was because the fact that its story, the meta story, like the movie
Sure.
itself is good, but the story of these small time Estonia content
Sure.
creators trying to do something big and do something that can compete with everything else, and being
Yeah.
able to succeed. I mean, it's not only just the first Estonia movie to ever win the animated film to ever win the
Mm.
Oscars, or any Estonian
Yeah.
film to win Oscars,
Sure.
but also it's also the first independent animated film to win Oscars, like, and
Wow.
to win Best Animated Feature.
Whoa.
Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks,
DreamWorks.
none of them won. This was
Wow.
an independent film. So I
Hmm.
appreciate it for that reason, but I
That's
do
fine.
think
Yeah.
if you're to watch both movies, and I'm saying this completely off of my butt here, I'm talking out of school, but from what I've heard, it seems like The Wild Robot is technically a better movie. I mean,
Sure. And again, this is
subjective.
completely objective, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm fine with it if that's I didn't know that story. I mean, that's a really cool story, and I'm always against defiance and going against the big guys. So if
Right.
somebody can compete with no money, that's pretty awesome.
It's just
But if
hard
I were
work,
to go,
labor.
but like you said, it's like, but if you're actually to pick the best movie, it might be a different story.
Most of the time, and I try to do this in my reviews and stuff too, is, it's hard to always parse out artist intention versus what you actually like, the art itself. And it's like
Yeah.
the story behind the story can add color, it can be interesting, it can add to your enjoyment of the movie on a second watch or something, but the art should also speak for itself. I mean, that's just a big
Yep.
part of it. So
Yep. Agreed.
so I'm Still Here wins one. We don't have to talk too much about this. We're running low on time anyway. It was a good
I didn't
movie.
see it, to be
Yeah,
honest. You did?
we went to go see it. It was a great movie, very informative. It's a true story, basically
Mm.
about it's interesting about like forced disappearances
Okay.
in the authoritarian regime in Brazil during the 70s.
Oh, yikes. Okay.
Yeah, so it was rough stuff, but it was really good. The first half was actually really great because it just showed, it was kind of just like a slice of life piece of living, like this family that was like slightly well off, living on the beach in Rio de Janeiro, and
Mm.
just like makes you want to live there. And the family was all had great dynamics, and the dad was really nice, and everyone's really happy. And of course, that means that the ball's got to
Yeah, it
drop at
doesn't
some
have
point.
yeah, of
So
course.
once the ball starts dropping, it becomes interesting for the human piece side of it, but the fun times are over, which is a little lame. But yeah, I definitely think it deserved international film. I don't think it needed anything else. I don't think
It was
Fernando Torres did really well, but I definitely think that Mikey Madsen, for example, did a better role. Had a better acting
sure,
job than her.
sure, and just to add, everybody saw this one coming, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if you had your actress up for Best
yeah,
Actress,
and
you're
it happens to
probably
be.
gonna win the international
Yeah.
film.
Yeah. There were some other ones that I'd heard of, like the Sacred Fig one. I heard that one's pretty good, but
Mm.
this one is definitely the winner. And then I had to put this in here.
That's
Nosferatu gets
hilarious.
no wins, and I'm real upset about
That's
it.
hilarious.
So
It
yeah,
is sad. It is sad. Like,
especially too,
nothing.
considering how much of a cultural like touch point the movie is now. I mean, if you
Mhm.
are connected to Filmstagram at all, then you're
Yep.
inundated with reels, behind the scenes stuff. I mean, everyone's or Count Orlok and this Nosferatu has become a symbol, and in some ways, weirdly, a sex symbol, which is very
Yeah.
strange. But I think
Very
that
strange.
there is some meta text to be talking about that. I've listened to some podcasts, sociology stuff, like podcasts where people have kind of been talking about how Lily Rose Depp's character is fighting. She's like basically a modern woman in her
Mhm.
old times, and she's different, and she
Yep.
has mental health issues, and she feels
Yep.
lonely, and she's also fighting her traditional life versus this kind of really alluring kind of other, the alternative, it's in a way the bad boy, or just this like kind of
Sure.
out of the norm love affair that she's
Yep.
having psychically with Count Orlok, and that
Right.
he is gross. There is something about his just like, I will need you, I want you, la la la, that just it's just
And
something about it that's alluring, and I think that's why a lot of women on, like, Instagram and stuff like that are starting to thirst over Count Orlok.
well, and honestly, to add to that, and I think this is one of my favorite parts about it, and it's kind of in that ballpark, is that she's the one that sacrifices
Yes.
herself.
Yes.
Because in most not in Dracula story or
Mhm.
in most horror movies, it's the guy that puts himself in front of the bad guy, right?
Right. Right.
And so she actually is the one that sacrifices herself in this case, and it's like it's different. I mean, she's the one killing Count Orlok. I mean,
Right.
it's her,
She's the one with the
in most
power in
cases.
the end, and she
Exactly.
uses her womanness against him,
Yep,
basically, and then also,
yep,
all the other versions of this, like the Werner Herzog or even the original,
yep.
Ellen is just the most, like, whatever character. She's very
Yeah,
much a
exactly.
damsel, and in this
Yeah,
one, she has so
exactly.
much more agency, and I noticed
Yep,
that right off the bat, and I loved that about
100%.
this film, which once again, it's like,
Same.
if you can remake a classic like this and then make it better, man, you are
Yeah.
not like it works the opposite way. If you remake a classic and make it worse, then you're like a 0 out of 10. But if you do
Yep,
it better, then 10 out of 10, you're doing great. So
yep.
it deserved more than what it got, but them's the breaks, I
That's
guess.
the Oscars.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, we did the Oscars. We don't really have much time for more, so I just really quickly, I still
Yeah,
wanted to
let's hear
do
it.
our horror
Ooh, yeah.
watch. We got to
Let's go
keep that
for it.
going. And so real fast, we're gonna get through here. Hard Eyes was coming. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to see any of these that came out in February, but you'll see
Mm-mm.
there's an interesting trend on the ratings here. So we got a 6.2 user and a 61 Metascore, which I think is a really good sign. It's in green, which is a good sign in general.
Yeah,
That especially for a slasher movie to get this kind of rating is pretty good. Because a lot of those movies there's even good slashers that have like a 27 Metascore because critics just hate
yep,
slashers.
yep.
And so for it to be on the higher end, it's also made by the same people who've been doing the new Scream 5 and 6, which those are
Okay.
very, very good in my opinion, as far as
Mhm,
slashers
mhm.
go. And so it definitely makes sense that they were able to make another successful slasher. And then we've got The Monkey, which is 6.4
A
and
remake?
61.
Is that a remake?
So it's not a remake. I know because I thought of it too, which there's the Stephen King. It's also a Stephen King, which is really
Okay.
interesting. But there's the Monkey Shines from back in the day,
Yeah. Yep,
which is
that's what I was thinking of.
similar but not a remake. This movie is like, it reminds me
Ah.
of like Final Destination, but with a monkey toy. So the monkey toy
Nice.
is like somehow
Of course.
causing people to just like spontaneously die in some way or another. So there's a lot of cheek to it. It's directed by the same guy who did Long Legs.
Oh, okay.
So it's definitely, I think my thing about it is I feel like there's a lot of people that came out disappointed because they were expecting something else. But there's a
Mm,
lot of people that really like it. I think it's definitely a cult hit in the making. Just because it
sure.
is so quirky. Anybody who likes a good hint, like wink wink, not nudge nudge kind of humor inside
Mhm.
of a very gory film, so it's like it's hyper violent but also not too serious, and I think those two things when done well are honestly like match made in heaven. So I'm really excited to actually watch that one. And Hard Eyes, once again, both of these movies, I think Hard Eyes more than The Monkey did well.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna ask, are these in theaters? This one says
They're
exclusively
actually
in theaters.
both still in theaters. But
Okay,
Hard Eyes you can officially buy on Prime for $20
okay,
or on YouTube for $20. And
okay,
so it is purchasable on streaming. Hard
cool.
Eyes is, but they are both still in theaters if you can find them. And Hard Eyes did well. I mean, I think it had one of the. I think I saw a statistic saying it had one of the best opening box offices for a slasher movie of all time. So
Wow.
for a slasher movie, it's a low bar.
That's
But
fair.
it is good though. That is
Scream.
yeah, exactly. Screams are being very successful, and it's made by the same team,
Mhm.
so makes sense. And then the last
Yeah.
one here we have is The Gorge, which may have
Oh,
passed
I did
you.
see that.
Okay, you watched it?
I did see it.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yep.
okay, we got some perspective here. What'd you think about it?
Um, okay, what was it, a 6.7?
Oh yeah, so we have a 6.7
Yeah,
user
okay.
and a
I
57
would give it
Metascore.
about a 6.5. I'm right there.
Yeah,
There are elements that are really cool. Cool is a horrible term, but, like,
yeah.
at the same time, there are elements that make it intriguing and interesting, that but I don't think it comes together in the right way.
Mm.
And when you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about, but,
I've heard that the
eh
romance was well done, but then it
yes,
kinda
exactly. And then
everything
it
else
kinda goes
wasn't.
off. That's exactly what I was gonna say. It has the romance element of what, 2 people and they're doing different things when they can only see the other person, and how
Mhm.
that evolves is really cool.
Right.
But then there's the middle, which literally the
Oh, the
middle,
gorge.
the center separating them, that aspect, I kinda didn't wish it wasn't a horror movie. Like, it
Right.
doesn't feel like a horror movie, if that makes sense.
It from what I've heard, it is, like, hardly a horror movie. Obviously, it
It's
gets there.
not to
The
me.
vibes I were getting
Yeah, exactly, it
was like
gets there.
yeah, it was like a young adult kind of vibe. It kinda gave me
Yep.
like, what's it, Maze Runner not Maze Runner, what's the well, that too, but, what's the one, Divergence and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
Divergent. It does feel like
Kinda
Divergent. Isn't
has a
Miles
little bit of
Teller in
young
that? It's been
adult
a
yeah,
while.
which is fine. I mean, young adult movies can be great.
I'm fine with him, yeah,
it's just that style can kinda make you it makes sense that it was direct to streaming, although it did very well
totally.
for direct to streaming, like, it had a really
Yeah,
high
it popped up.
viewership.
Yeah, I mean, it popped up on mine. I was like, "Oh, I'm a big fan of Miles Teller.
And
I
Anya
like
Taylor-Joy's
her,"
good too.
and
Yeah,
yeah, I like both of them a lot. I
yeah,
mean, what was she was the chess player? What
yeah,
was the
Queen's
name of
Gambit.
that
So they
show?
the
Queen's
Queen's
Gambit. I
Gambit. So
love
they actually
Queen's
did
Gambit.
a homage to that in the movie. So there's a scene where he's playing
Yeah,
drums and he's like it's like
yep,
Whiplash, and then there's a
and
scene where
they
she's playing chess. But,
yeah, they play chess against each other.
mhm, and apparently, some meta stuff there, they wanted that out of the script. They did not want they thought it was really dumb and
Oh,
cheesy.
really? It is kinda dumb and cheesy, to be
Yeah,
honest, but, like, if you didn't know, who cares? Like,
right, right.
it was fine. I mean, the way they did it, 'cause
As long as you
they were
work it
trying
into
to
the yeah,
yeah, they were trying to be together, like, they were dating in a
yeah.
sense, like, they were finding ways to be together, so I didn't even put the 2 together,
Yeah.
to be honest,
Yeah, as long
surprisingly.
they're working into the story and it makes sense, I like a good not
That
head
was
tailed.
fine.
I think they just, like, themselves are just tired of that their main
Sure.
characters, like, in their career being
Yeah, I
brought back,
get it.
but you gotta get over that a little bit. Um,
Yeah, agreed.
but yeah, I think it is interesting though that out of all 3 of these, The Gorge has the lowest critical rating and the highest user rating. Everything's around
Yeah,
the middle,
uh,
but maybe it's a crowd pleaser. The thing is, Hard
yeah,
Eyes
I
is
don't
a
know.
slasher movie. The Monkey is a
Sure.
very niche,
Yep.
like horror film. So it makes sense to me. I mean,
Oh,
more
yeah,
people are
yeah, it
gonna
does.
enjoy The Gorge. It's more,
Sure.
wider audience, so that
And
makes
again,
sense.
they're both really good, and there are some really good scenes. There's a really good scene, I don't wanna spoil too much,
Yeah.
but once they start to get together,
Mhm.
there's a couple scenes that I think they have really good chemistry
Yeah.
with.
I've heard
I
that too. They
just
have good
kinda
chemistry.
yeah, I just kinda lose it when you kinda start the stuff that happens surfaces. I just
Yeah.
can't get behind some of
It
the
seems to me a little bit too like you've spent, 70, 80% of this movie on one thing, and then you try to give it something else at the
that's
end.
exactly right.
It's not
It
earned.
is agreed,
Yeah.
100%. It's
I
like
just
it reminds me of an M. Night Shyamalan movie, like Signs. The entire
yeah,
movie, you don't wanna see the aliens,
don't need to
and
see
then at
it.
the end, you're like, "Oh my god, this isn't the same movie I just watched."
Right,
I
and
hate when
The
I
Village kinda
really
does
don't
that
like
a little
when
bit too.
oh, yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't
I
like
do
when
like The
they
Village,
like
but it is yeah.
yeah. Oh, and I like both those movies, but I don't like but I think they're 6 to 7s, like, they're
Mhm.
enjoyable movies, but they
A
have
lot of
that
Shyamalan, actually.
potential. And this
6 to
movie
7.
I thought had a lot of potential.
Yeah,
Like I said, you'll like the chemistry, you'll like
right.
the concept, but it doesn't come together the way they could have done.
I like, that director, Scott Derrickson, he's actually really good. He did,
What else has he done? I don't know
so
if
he
I know that
did,
name.
way back in the day, he did Sinister, which is a great horror film.
Oh, yes,
He
okay.
also did,
I have seen
weirdly, he was the one who did Doctor Strange, which is a really good movie.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, he directed Doctor Strange.
Wow, didn't see that
He
coming.
also did The Black Phone recently, which I liked that movie as well.
Oh, I really liked The Black
I
Phone,
love The Black
really
Phone,
liked it.
and the second
So
one's
did
coming
I.
out, this year, so
There's a second one?
yeah, it's coming out
I
this
didn't
year.
even know.
Yeah. Well, it's not
Huh?
horror watch time, so we do need to do, like, a little bit of a, looking out ahead because there's a lot of movies I
I
got on
know,
the list
I need to
coming
know
out this
more
year.
about that.
Yeah, Black Phone
Yeah,
2 is
let's
coming out.
talk
I
about that.
really love The Black Phone. I could talk about that
Me
movie a
too.
lot, but that's
Same.
another it's not I remember watching it and being like, "This is so Stephen King, it's crazy," and then
It felt like it was in the '80s.
it's written by his son.
Oh, I didn't
It's
know
based
that.
on a short story
No
of his
way.
son, Joe
No
Hill,
way.
who that's Joe Hill's pseudonym, but he's really a king. It's his son,
No
which
kidding.
makes so
I
much
didn't know
sense. I
that.
remember watching it and I was
Oh,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah, it
feels like
feels
a
like it.
Stephen King
Feels
story.
like I'm in the '80s too. I mean, I
Well,
think it is based in the
right.
'80s,
The
right?
girl has got kind of the shining, right? Like, she has that kind
Mhm.
of shining
Mhm.
clairvoyance, and then there's also
Mhm.
this whole ghost story, but it's, like,
Yep.
that mix between, like, a human story and things are really grounded in the '70s
Yep.
and, like, that whole time period when you had people like, Dean, Corll, like the Candyman
Yeah.
killers killing
Yep.
people and
Yep.
stuff. So it's, like, based in reality, but then there's, like, a supernatural twinge, so Stephen King. So
Yeah,
it definitely makes
100%.
sense. But anyway,
Yeah.
so we're not getting into movie news today, unfortunately, just because we don't have enough time and we're not trying to have a 2-hour episode. But there's tons of stuff coming into. Obviously, Christopher Nolan's out there making the Odyssey, so there's all kinds of little tidbits getting into. We've got some other projects that are coming down the line. So I'm just gonna kind
Yeah, stay
of
tuned.
yeah, I'm gonna kind of hoard all this news, and then we're gonna kind of kind of download it into the next episode. And so it's going to be coming out by the end of the month. So this one, the difference between last episode and this one is kind of an aberration. It's going to be more
Sounds good.
consistently month to month. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Matt,
Yeah.
for joining me again as the
Yep.
co-host. This
Yeah.
has been really
Definitely had a
fun.
good time.
Yeah. So, also, I didn't plug anything at the beginning. So, you could find me on YouTube, and wherever you're watching this, then you're probably know where to go. So,
Yeah, that's the same. We're gonna have this on the Movie Podium as well on
oh,
YouTube.
yeah.
So yeah, you know where to find us.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks.